Well, hello, and welcome to ZBrush Live. This is going to be the fifth episode of this season, season 5, episode 5. Number 5, I guess, is the key thing here. And just a quick bit of business before we get started. One is, can you guys hear me and see my screen? So let's find that out. If you guys from all three, guys and gals, I guess, from all three of the different services, from Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, can chime in and let me know that you can hear me and see my screen okay, then we can go ahead and get started. You can just let me know in the chat and just kind of mention that you can hear me okay. And so as you are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just remind everybody that you're probably seeing this on one of the services. If you like what you see, click on a like. And also, if you want to see more of it, you can subscribe. I'm just one of the streamers on ZBrush Live. There's quite a few of us, and we have different things that we show and talk about, and sculpt and paint and create. So definitely keep an eye on that. And I'm on every other Friday. Sometimes it's off. Like to this month, it kind of is happening right after. So I streamed last Friday, right before Halloween, and we're going to stream again today. And then next Friday I'm off, and then I'm on the Friday after, and then it will continue to go on that way, hopefully until the end of the year, until the end of the season. Okay, and then leave a comment if you have any comments, and if you have questions, you're always welcome to ask them while I'm streaming. And if you have questions after the fact, you can leave them in the comments, and somebody hopefully will get back to you in a short period of time. So once again, please let me know if you can hear me okay, and see my ZBrush screen. If you can, then we can get started, but please let us know. I just want to make sure that we are streaming and everything's working before I jump in. Right. Let's see here. Looks like nobody is chiming in yet. So we'll wait a couple more seconds here. Hopefully somebody will jump in. So somebody from, here we go. Okay, good. So Turbo Grappler, do you hear me okay? It's a great name. Do you hear me okay? And obviously you can see what I'm showing, so that's always good. But if you can also hear me okay, please chime in and let me know. Okay, yep, okay, sounds good. Good. So we're good on Twitch. I just need somebody from YouTube and somebody from Facebook. Facebook has a little bit of a delay, so which is fine. We can wait for you guys. And yeah, so anybody on YouTube watching, please in the chat type in that you can hear me okay, and we can get going. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. This is the project I started at the beginning of this season. So it's kind of an astronaut, and we kind of started with a guy in the first episode, but then the second episode I wanted to show more of the technique that I was using, so I started with or continued on with a female character, and then it developed into this kind of astronaut looking thing, which we're going to develop further. But then last week for Halloween, I actually switched over to something else. I made a monster, which looks like this. And we are going to continue on one of these two based on your vote. So, all right. Okay, so good. People are chiming in from YouTube. Hey guys, Spring and Ebrelatas Studio. I can't. I don't know if there's a break in this word or if it's just one big word. If you guys can hear me, please let me know that you can hear me well. And then we'll just do a live vote. And whatever one you vote on, we will continue. So you can either vote on continuing with this monster, which needs a little bit of work, or continuing with the Astronaut, which also needs some work. So we can do either one of those two today. It's all going to depend on your vote, so I will wait and see. All right, so we got a few people on. I'm kind of waiting for you to A, let me know that you can hear me on YouTube and Facebook, and B, that that which one of these you want to vote for. So do you want to vote for this creature, monster, character, or do you want me to continue with this astronaut character? Right, so that's going to be the vote of the night, and then we can go ahead and get started. All right, Spring 3245. Send me an email if you can, please, and let me open up a browser window here, and what we'll do is I'm just going to let you know Spring 3245. If you just go to my webpage here, so it's Kermaco, right? Kermaco.com. Kermaco.com, and there's an email button over here. Just click on that and send me an email, and we can talk about what you and then we can talk about what it is that you want to do. Okay. And by the way, while we're here, everybody, if you guys want to find out more about the kind of work that I do, you can find about it here on my website. So it's kermaco.com, and I say this every time, but one of these days it is going to happen. I'm moving this to ArtStation. I'm in the middle of creating my ArtStation page, but I haven't published it yet. So as soon as I do, this will be moving on to there. Here's all my social media stuff. So I do a lot of mechs. I do a lot of hard surface, I guess is what it's called, but I do a lot of mech sculpts. Most of these are in ZBrush. In fact, almost all of them are in ZBrush. And I also do vehicles, which are also hard surface. And again, this is completely made in ZBrush. I should put my second spinner that I did in here as well. And I also do characters, like so. And I also do creatures, like so. All right. So, so yeah, this is where you find all my stuff. And this is, again, is more of a dated site. Some of my newer stuff I post on Instagram. I also want to do a quick request here, is that I am almost at 2,000 followers. It went up a bit from last time. And I don't know what's happening, but it goes up to about 45 or whatever, and then the number starts going down. I think Instagram just wants me to promote something, or I don't know what's going on. But if you guys can follow me and help me get to 2,000, that would be great. And also you can see some of my latest works here. This one right here was something that was done with the method that I showed, kind of a very quick sketch. This one as well, right? So these are all kind of using that same technique that I used in this. And here, these guys, I think as well. So these are also some creatures that I worked on recently in a variety of different poses. So yeah, my Instagram has my latest stuff, and this is my website. If you want to get, if you like what you see and you want to get more stuff, if you want to get through some sort of more official training instead of just watching the stream, I have a couple on the Gnomon Workshop. I should just talk about that real quick. And you can search me by instructor by name. Here I am. And I've got two. One of them is a mech project that I start from scratch. And then the other one is on photogrammetry and how to take scan data and retopologize it for use in ZBrush and other programs and games and whatnot. So yeah, these are both available, and you can get I think you can even get a trial subscription to this, and you can watch it. So so yeah, I mean, this is a pretty long, both of them are actually, and they're very in-depth, and they start all the way from researching the specifications to sculpting in VR and with Oculus Medium, and then moving it on to all the way into different applications, texturing it in Substance Painter, sculpting it in ZBrush. All the stuff is in here. It's pretty in-depth and goes through all these different kind of parts of how to create a really kind of interesting mech from start to finish. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you getting into this and watching it if you want something that basically goes through as a lesson, as a training of how to do it from the beginning to the end. And also, if you want to watch my other stuff, you can just go to ZBrush Live or Pixologic's YouTube channel. Either one will work. If this resolves here. And while that's doing it, I'll just jump to Pixologic's YouTube channel, which I'm probably going to be on right now. Okay, so there it is. And if you go to videos, you can rewatch some of the really cool stuff from the summit. They're actually cutting it up as different videos and putting it on, so you can watch those. But if you want to watch previous ones of mine, I think there's one. Where am I missing it? Where are you? Here we go. So there's this one right here, which was the last one that I did. And then as you scroll down over time, here's another one. And I'm sure there's a playlist with all my stuff, and you can always search specifically for by name, and you can find them as well. All right. So Elton, thank you very much. And let's kind of go ahead and get started. So here we go. We've got 3 votes for the astronaut. That's good. That looks like it's winning right now, and I will stop the voting at some point. But and then there is this kind of creature also that you can vote on as well. So you know, you put another material on him. So if anybody wants me to work on this monster, then vote for it. Otherwise, we are going to continue on with the astronaut. All right, so I will give it, what time is it? 7:16. I'll give it maybe 1 minute, 1 more minute. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can ask. And we'll just wait until it's 7:17. And 7:17, if no votes come in for the monster, we're going to continue on the astronaut. Because Got My Killers and Dan Keith and Turbo Grappler are voting for the astronaut. All right, let's see here. Spring, yeah, definitely do send the email, and we can just maybe chat and see exactly what it is that you want to do. All right. Well, I'm gonna kind of try and push this monster a little bit, see if anybody is interested. You guys don't like this thing? It's too scary, huh? All right. I did a tiny bit of work on it since we since we made it last time. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing was done in 2 hours on the last stream. If anybody's interested in how it came together, you can watch it then. All right, we are at 7:17. No votes for this guy, so unfortunately, he is not going to be what we're going to work on, and we'll just continue working on this astronaut. Let me do a little bit of house cleaning here. And we don't need this one either, so I'm going to delete that as well. All right, so back to the astronaut. Let's go to basic material here. Actually, let's go to this one. I kind of like this one, reflected plastic. Okay, so here we've got the kind of the character that's underneath. This is what we started out with, and then we did the alphas and created the spacesuit, and I've got 2 of them here. I think, look at this one with the little feet. I think that this is the one that I did last. I don't know why this is still here. Let's see if this one. Yeah, I think this is here for us to be adding parts to. That's fine. And then I have a couple of pockets that I did. I worked on these, I think, last time, but I had a crash, so I had to redo them, which is fine. And then, let's see, we got some boots here, which are looking pretty cool. I'd wear these boots. And then we've got this little part that I did that basically is the chest piece. And what else do we have? We have this kind of thing that is the base of the helmet. which is kind of rough. We'll probably work on that a little bit. We've got the backpack. It's a little bit rough as well. We'll work on that today as well. All right, and then we've got the helmet. And so this is kind of a rough helmet that I did. Again, starting out with just a very simple type of shape. And if you look at the geometry here, if I bring it down, it actually, this is basically what I started out with. Just a really simple shape, subdivided it and projected some alphas on it and kind of developed it into this. And I don't think I did that on camera. So if you guys are interested, I can do another helmet. It's always fun to do helmets. Oh man, Dan, you changed your mind to monster. Okay, monster to muddy. I don't know what that means. Maybe you can explain that better, Dan. Okay, how long does it take you to do that? How long does it take me to do this thing right here, Alvaro? Is that what you're asking, or were you asking about the other thing? Okay, so with the helmet, I did a mask, and this is basically just me. Just go to the jump to the mask. This is just me kind of extracting out a piece and creating some sort of a mask for the front of it, so I can apply different material than the helmet. And then we've got this piece here around the neck. I don't know if you can see it. Let me isolate it. This. Oh wait, we're still on this one. Okay, and then we got the eyeballs, which I should move up. Should move the eyeballs up to here. And we got a little bit of a hair thing for her and some these things too, which give her face a better look. Here we go. I'll bring her back. Let's hide the helmet for a minute. And the visor. So this is what she looks like. Let's just pick a different color. Okay, so, and turn polyframe off. So this is kind of what her basic look is. So Alvaro, I still did not hear back from you as to how long, how long does it take me to do this one, or how long did it take me to do the monster that was there before? This one took me about, well, we did 3 episodes, 2 hours each, so that's 6 hours. And off camera, I probably spent another hour or 2, so about 8 hours, about a day, work day, I guess. Oh, in the confusion of shapes. Okay, well, that's kind of what I was going to work on, Dan. I was going to, I mean, when things are muddy, you can kind of, that's kind of the start, right, of the sketch. And then you refine it. So here, there's some muddy areas too. Like here, I don't really like what's going on here, so I'll probably be working on that. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started here. I'm just going to switch to the subtool. Now, I can see that there are some areas here that are protruding from the model underneath. So I'm just going to do liner adjustments here just to make sure that we don't have that happening. Right, and I'm going to leave these there because I don't need to sculpt what's underneath there. Although it's kind of cool what's underneath. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, I've got this interesting pattern, but I just basically extracted this piece out of it. All right, so let's continue working on the suit here. And you can see here from the alpha, I mean, I've got some really rough spots here that I need to go in and adjust. So I'll be doing that next. But I just want to make sure that I don't have any parts from the body underneath kind of coming through at this point. Okay, so I'm assuming that this suit here is kind of a combination of although you're saying the complete model, it all depends. I tried, again, it all depends on what the project is. So sometimes if I'm on a project and there's a deadline, then it takes me as much time as I can I can spend on it and meet my deadline. But if I'm doing it for myself and just kind of having fun, then I take my time and abandon it at some point, and that's basically when it's done. So if you're asking about something like this, like if this was a project, I could probably whip out something like this, in complete form with UVs, game ready, everything like that, probably in about a week or 2, depending on, the engine and what is needed. But if I'm just doing a concept sketch, like what I'm doing right here, I could probably whip one of these out in a day. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so one of the things I need to determine here is like, you know, so these are kind of harder pieces. They're not cloth. They're kind of plastic, and this whole suit is kind of fabricated in one piece. So some of these things here are not. Some of these are kind of reinforced with some sort of harder plastic material, and some of them are just more flexible, kind of maybe some sort of rubber or cotton, not cotton, but rubberized material, astronaut suit type of material. All right, okay. Oops. So this radial menu, that keeps coming up. I know somebody's going to ask about it at some point. This is from Wacom, and I just have it because there's some brushes that I switch to all the time, and I've got a menu that I basically have that comes up like this to choose stuff from. But things I choose all the time, I just basically put it on. I've got one of these 3D pens from Wacom, so I just assigned it to one of the buttons. Basically, with the 3D pen, what they did is they took the eraser that's at the back of the pen that comes with the tablet. They took that and made it into a button in the back. So here I'm just basically using two brushes, Damien Standard and H Polish, just to go in here and clean some of this up. Notice here there's another part that's kind of extruding. And again, I'm not really going to care about whatever's underneath these other parts that I've created. And then we can just go ahead and continue. So this part right here is looking pretty good. Maybe make this a little bit more polished. And I'm trying to get rid of all these kind of wobbly edges. I want things to be very, very as clean as possible. But again, you know, they're not really like hard metal plates or anything like that. They're not plastic. They're not plastic or metal or carbon fiber or anything like that. They're just, you know, more kind of organic materials that are comfortable to wear, right? So I'm just going to hit this again with H Polish. I kind of like the little fold action that was going on there, but there was too much of it. And then here also, I just want to straighten these out a bit. And I've got the Reflect Plastic on. It's either, I mean, it's a good thing to either sculpt with that or maybe basic material too, because what that allows you to do is it allows you to see the specular light and gives you more control. I'm always amazed why people usually sculpt with a matte cap, like matte cap gray or whatever, because you can't really move the light in that. I mean, on this model I can always move the light to somewhere else and kind of get an idea of what it would look like if the light, let's say, was behind or in front or underneath. You know, it's always good when you're sculpting to move the light around. That's what I guess you do with traditional sculpting. Whoa. Hit a button there by accident. Right, create a bit of a notch over here. So again, it's really this method gives me a really good idea on how smooth that surface is. And just gonna make a little bit of a part over here. So again, just two brushes for now, Damien Standard and H Polish. Right, so this here area is going to be more of a kind of clothy area, and you know, I can and I will in a minute use some of the dynamics brushes on here. So this area over here is kind of muddy looking. I'm going to use that. I like that word now. I'm going to be using that word for when things are not really well defined. So Alvaro was saying that with the monster things looked a little bit too confusing, which is exactly how it kind of turns out when I do the trick with the alphas, with the, not alphas, but the textures projection technique that I showed. When you do that, you basically get a good idea of how things are going to be, and then you spend a little bit of time refining it until you get something better. And that's always good too, because if you're going through a review process, you're not spending too much time developing something and then having to throw it away for the project. So with that method, you can whip out some things pretty fast and then get approval. And once you get approval, then you can refine it into something better. Right. So right now I'm sculpting at a pretty high level. I'm sculpting at subdivision level 6. I'm going to drop down to maybe about 5 here, and 5 is a good, good for me to kind of get more defined. And by the way, this whole suit is one piece. Usually I break it up into different ones, but here I'm just going to leave it as the one piece that it is, which means that it's going to be a lot of polygons. So, and you subdivide that 6 times, you get a big amount of them. All right, so I don't see any questions. I guess you guys are just watching. That's looking okay. And again, I'm getting up close and refining these, but realistically, people are just going to be looking at this from this distance. So if it's looking good at about this distance right here, like if I bring up the full body and this is working, then that's all the work I need to do. And I probably will augment these with some additional stuff that I'm going to be adding on in a little bit. So here, I'm just going to do a little bit of cleanup. And it's always good to do this stuff at lower subdivision levels so that things go a little bit faster and you're manipulating less polygons. And this over here looks a little bit too choppy. Crush Machini. Good question. So, there are programs that are specifically meant for certain things, and there are programs that do a lot of different things. So Blender is one of those programs that does a lot of different things and does some really well, but does some enough, I guess, for what people might just need a little bit. So I would definitely say that for sculpting, ZBrush is much better. There's so many other things you can do in ZBrush that you cannot do in Blender. However, that said, if you have a project where your main focus is maybe on animation or modeling or rendering or kind of doing that kind of stuff, and you just want to do a quick sculpt of something, there are some tools in Blender, sculpting tools that you can use. But if you want to try out ZBrush, I mean, if you don't want to kind of jump into the whole thing, there's also ZBrush Core, which is a kind of a version of ZBrush that has most of the things that you need. And there's also a free version of ZBrush called ZBrush Core Mini, which you can use to, for free, just try out the sculpting. But, I've used all the sculpting tools that are out there. I've tried them all. And I've even, believe it or not, I've even written a book on Mudbox, and just for sculpting, the brush system in ZBrush is really, really amazing, and they keep adding to it. I don't know if you guys saw the videos from the summit, and some of the stuff that's coming is going to be really cool too. So it keeps getting better and better and better. Now, one of the things about Blender that I've discovered, I should also talk about that. Blender is really good, kind of out of the box for very, very basic things. But as you want to do more with it, you have to buy all these plugins. And these plugins cost a pretty penny. So at the end of the day, you are spending money on Blender. It's not like 100% free. So, be aware of that. But the sculpting part, I think, comes with it. And I don't know if there's a sculpting add-on or plugin or anything like that. I haven't seen one. If anybody knows of one, let me know. But yeah, the sculpting in it is pretty basic. You have some basic brushes. It gives you an idea of how to do some sculpting, but nearly not as sophisticated as the brush system in ZBrush. All right. So another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the Inflate Brush. And this is coming to too much of a point. I want it to inflate more like it's some sort of a tube underneath. And by the way, I have the texture on, which also was part of the alphas. I did do a little bit of poly painting on it, but I can turn that off. Not you, but where are you? I can turn that texture off so I can actually see the geometry underneath. So this kind of gives me a better idea. Right, and these kind of look a little bit like they're random, so I'm going to close this one off with H-Polish. Hey Shen, how's it going? Glad you can join us. All right. The suit has an aliens vibe to it. All right, cool. That works for me. The aliens in Alien, the suit. And I'm assuming you're talking about Alien, not Aliens, right? Because I don't know if there were any astronaut suits in Aliens. It was more like a military kind of thing. But the suits in Alien were designed by Mobius. So, hey, I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, I mean, my reference sheet had some interesting stuff in it, but this was completely mostly driven by the alphas that I used. Oh yeah, it remembers the Blame's main character cloth. Okay, you're talking about Blame the show. That's one of my favorite shows on Netflix. I'm so glad they made that into a movie. I've got the graphic novels too. It's pretty neat. I'm sure, some of those stories will be made into movies. I'm glad finally somebody's taking a stab at Inkle. The Inkle, that is going to be one hell of a thing to try and pull off. So the book is such a classic. But, I liked Thor Ragnarok, so he might be able to pull it off. Who knows? It's always good when one movie's made. So, Dune was made into a movie before, and it wasn't as well received. And now the new one is getting a lot of good reviews. I liked it personally. That's one of the best movies I've seen in a while. Definitely since the pandemic began. All right, so here it's just basically moving around, cleaning up, right? So all this would have been, all this is kind of generated by those alphas. So now all I'm doing is just kind of doing a little bit of refinement here and cleaning these up. You can see here that some of the geometry is fighting me, specifically these areas down here, but I don't really care. Again, this is going to be done, viewed at a kind of a distant angle. So it's always good to kind of pull back every once in a while, take a look at the whole thing. All right, that's looking good. This is still a little bit choppy here, so let's kind of get that worked out. So working on a full character is kind of an interesting thing because, and notice I'm not really staying on one area for a very long time. I'm keep moving around, and that's kind of always a good idea because if you stay in one area for too long, you just basically, are focusing just on one area. So here I'm just, let's kind of get these arms more into some sort of shape, and then I'll jump to the legs and then come back to the arms and just keep moving back and forth. And you know, it's always good to, I mean, the alphas add a lot of detail, and it's always good to kind of balance that out with areas where your eyes can rest. Blender is free. I paid for Modo, 3D code, etc. ZBrush after my okay. Yeah, Blender is free. That's true. But like I said before, a lot of times you end up buying a bunch of plugins for it, which no longer make it free. But you know, for a starter pack, for what you get for free in Blender, that's a great thing. Like, I wish I had that when I was younger. You know, like when I was younger, 3D software was like $30,000 and worked on workstations that were like $50,000, $60,000. And I mean, and those are those amounts in those days. So it was pretty, it was pretty daunting to kind of get into this industry. But nowadays you can get a pretty affordable PC and throw a Blender on it, and you can get pretty far. So I'm really happy that the Blender project is there and it's free. However, just beware that, you know, you're probably going to end up buying some plugins, and those are going to end up costing you some money. Modo is nice. I know some really good friends of mine still use Modo, love Modo. I don't think I've used it for a while here, just because, you know, I spend most of my time in ZBrush nowadays. Some in Maya, and for work mostly, and yeah. All right. Yeah, Blame should get another anime, and it also should get, you're right, the anime, you know, like an anime version of Blame would be interesting, but also a live action version of it would be interesting as well. Oh yeah, yeah. John, I agree. It does have a better feel. Absolutely. I think ZBrush feels, you know, for me, just the brush, the way the brush works on the surface, and the way the surface reacts to my brush strokes, I don't think I've seen anything even come close. I mean, I could probably, you know, sculpt in Blender just fine. But I will very quickly start missing some of the stuff I have here. Also, another thing I should note is that sorry, this part's kind of got me a little bit confused as to what's going on, so I'm trying to figure out something good for it. See, I'm still sticking to that same area. I should move on. All right, let's move on to the leg over here. Let's move on to this little problem area, which I don't like at all. Let me go down in subdivision levels a little bit and just straighten this out. Then go up. All right. Okay, good question, the navigation question. So I should answer that because I think it's good to know. So the way I have navigation set up, and I'm just bringing up my Wacom stuff here. Okay, so this is the mouse I'm using, the 3D mouse. So notice here that to this button down here, I have the ZBrush Radial, and then I've got right click mapped to the back button and middle click mapped to the front button. Okay, and that's how I have it mapped for Maya as well. It's just one that I know. And I use what is known as the Ophir navigation, just because, you know, I learned it that way and that's what I'm comfortable with. But, you know, there's a big controversy between who likes Ophir navigation and who likes right-click navigation, I guess it's called. So, if your question just was that, am I using right-click navigation? The answer is no. I'm using the Ophir navigation, which basically is, you know, click Alt-Tap for zooming, and then just dragging for rotation, and holding Alt down for pan. So I don't know why that works really well for me. I always kind of am surprised by some ZBrush artists that basically stay with older features. They don't move on to newer ones, and there's quite a few, which is fine. I mean, they've found success doing what they do, so I don't know. They're probably really busy. They don't have time to learn some of the new stuff. So, I guess one of my things that I have from when I first learned ZBrush was this navigation technique, and I've tried the other one and tried to get into it, but I keep coming back to this one just because I'm so used to it. And for a while there, I also used this one plugin that made it so that the navigation in here was the same as in Maya, but I stopped using that just because it was kind of a pain in the butt to make it work. It kind of had some issues with other features, so I just basically said, you know what, I'm just going to go with this. All right, so here I'm trying to see if this kind of thing works here, and it kind of does, but maybe I'll add one more going this way. Like so. And then this comes out. This is maybe a softer part over here, and maybe this is some sort of a wire. Right, and here I'm just kind of taking a look at that thing that I made and seeing if it works from a distance. It works fine. Right, and then this little kind of looks like it's going to pinch over here, so I'm going to go ahead and push it in a little bit more, like that. I think the problem I had was that I need to move this a little bit out from the body. Right. What I really like about ZBrush also is that, I mean, here, I'm more of a, or a lot of my stuff is hard surface. So with organic, it works really, really well. Okay, so, well, now on second thought, I don't know if I like that line that I did. So I'm just going to go all the way back and get rid of it, and then redo this part. It's pretty easy enough. I really like what's going on down here, though. So I'm going to accentuate this little triangle over here. Oops. All right. Let's see, there's some questions coming in. Give me a second, and I will answer them. All right, let's just let this autosave, and I'll answer the questions. How about time management? How do you keep up with everything? Well, Crush Machiney. That's a good question to ask. So I guess what I would say to that is, first of all, it's dependent on you. Second of all, it's dependent on what you want to achieve. So for me, I've kind of basically decided on ZBrush as my tool of choice for sculpting. So I tend to use it every day, and I don't practice every day. And I never really, I mean, my practice was to create projects and just, for myself, like this one, and just work on it. And every one you do, you learn something new. And as well as I know ZBrush, and as long as I've been using it, I still have a lot about it that I am learning. So, so yeah, I would say, if you enjoy doing this stuff, then you should at least devote some time to it every day. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the whole day. It could be a few hours. Yeah, there are a lot of brushes, and as you can see here, I'm only using two right now, two or three. I'm just using, and you don't have to use all the brushes. I mean, you don't have to, it's kind of not a good idea to just basically go nuts just worrying about brushes. XMD is nice, and I have that as well. I do have the lifetime membership for it. And I like the organization tool. I don't use it as much, but I'm going to use it more. And they do have some good brushes, and you can always make your own brushes too. And there are plenty of brushes to buy. But it's like Photoshop. If you go brush crazy, you don't get any work done. So there are some basic brushes that you should know well, and then the other stuff is kind of an adventure to learn and use over time. Right, so I'm kind of liking what's going on here, but not this part. Going to the wrong brush here, so I'm just going to obliterate this part like this and just make it straight. Okay, that's good. And again, all these will be augmented with buttons and buckles and things like that in a little bit. So here, let me jump back up. Right, so see, things like this is what's generated from the alphas that you probably don't want. And again, they're you can easily kind of fix them if you just smooth things at a lower subdivision level like this. Right. All right. All right, so let's go up a subdivision level, see how good that, see, this is kind of a little bit better. I mean, still it's got some of that high frequency detail, but I can easily get that under control. I don't want to destroy some of the underlying design elements that it created, but I definitely don't want that noise that's there. Okay, let's look at it from the front. There is a little bit of it here as well. I'm going to hide these little pockets. There's a little bit here as well, but it's working for it. It kind of looks like kind of stretchy material on top of a pocket area. But these don't look that good, so just kind of continue. And then here you've got this little bit of chatter over here. I think I just want to make that more defined. You know what I'll do is, I don't know if I'll do it in this season, but maybe next season, or maybe as on my own personal time, maybe I'll find a few characters in the inkle and sculpt them. That would be a cool movie to work on, for sure. I'm sure he'll have some really heavy-duty concept artists on it. All right. Alvaro, yes, if you like my colors, you can have them. They are, if you go to my website, so kermaco.com, if you go here and go to my Gumroad, I have 3 different things that I have on there. There's my primitives brush, which is free, and there are my UI colors, which you can download, and that's free as well. And then I also have a kind of a more expanded version of the primitives that I sell for a nominal amount of money. And stay tuned, I'm going to have some more stuff on there as well. But yeah, if you like my UI colors, you can just grab them from there. Some people say they want to use my user interface too, but you know, I've probably said this 100 times, but I'll say it again. My user interface changes. Like if you guys see how many of these user interfaces I've had over the years, I think it would be over 100. So I always add and subtract and change my UI all the time. So if I give you my UI, then I'm doing you a disservice because I'm forcing you to work the way I do, which probably is not the way you would want to work. And then the second thing is it will probably be obsolete within maybe a week or two with whatever is in the new UI that I'm changing to. And plus, when a new version of ZBrush comes out, I keep adding to the UI as well. Right. Okay, so see here, I jumped to the legs, worked on them for a bit. Now let's see what I can do with this hip area. Again, just jumping around. And again, trying to get rid of some of the high frequency stuff that's not working and then keep some of the elements that are. All right. Now I'm leaving this area here free of any detail because I probably want to put some sort of decal or some sort of insignia on there that the spacesuit is going to have. All right, let's moving on to the back here. And as you can see here, this is just a little bit of cleanup. Usually I do this a little bit faster. I like these dots and what they're doing. I just want to create some sort of a indentation for them. All right, so here I'm just basically making up that specific area where I want that. Did I? Yes, I did. Where I want that emblem to go. So I'm just basically making a specific area for it. So it's just going to go over here. Like so. All right, so that's good. And maybe I'll have a wire or something come through there. And again, all this is really cool because all these are derived from that one alpha projection session. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to get a little bit of deformation on this to where the softer areas are. And for that, I'm going to drop the resolution maybe down to 3, like so. And I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add the helmet. Why not? And I'm going to switch over to some of the dynamics brushes, and I'm just going to use this cloth nudge. And kind of lightly, in this area here, it's going to be softer. So here I'm just kind of maybe doing some adjustments so it's more like believable as it's kind of forming to the kind of when she's stretching or whatever, ambulating. And here I'm just adding a little bit of folds here in the back where the knees bend. So you can see here that you don't have to really like run the simulation. You can just use these brushes to get some really interesting cloth effects. I used to use alphas before this capability came out, and now I just basically do it all with the cloth system. So here, maybe a little bit of that kind of pinches over here. And let's go to the side here. Right, so it kind of went on to this one area over here, which I don't really, want it to affect. So I'm just going to mask that area. And here we go. All right, that's looking good. And maybe just a tad about here. I'll do that as well. And a little bit around, just a tiny bit around here. Okay, and that kind of creates more of a convincing thing, and maybe a little bit here around the elbows. So that just basically is a little bit of a touch-up. Now let's go back up to the higher subdivision levels, see how that came up. And you can see that adds a little bit of interesting kind of effects. Here it added these folds, which I can modify, so it's working out pretty well. All right, so now I just want to move. One of the things you can also do is if you just want to work in one area, like I just want to work in that area, I'll just solo that out. And now I'm just basically isolating my work to this one area over here. That's not what I wanted. Yep, so I can kind of see how this is working over here. Let's go to Damon Standard and define these a little bit better. And I'm on subdivision level 6. Maybe I'll go down by 1. Right, so this is kind of interesting the way this is coming over like this. Maybe add a little bit of thickness to it. I have a hotkey for the move brush, and I also have it in my radial just because, sometimes this to flow a little bit more uniformly over here. So the person who was saying that the alien was muddy, this is basically the process I would use. I mean, by the time I'm done with that thing, it's going to look pretty well defined. And I will continue to work on it at some point, but not on the stream, since you guys shunned the monster and voted for the astronaut. I don't care. I enjoy working on either one. I'm not upset about it or anything. All right, let's see. Okay, so Crash Machini, that's a very good question. So I definitely do start from reference, and I always work from reference. It's always a good idea to have some reference around. Just because if you get stuck, it's a good idea to just have something to look at, and hopefully that'll open up some ideas for you. Sometimes that reference is stuff that I create, and sometimes it's provided to me by some sort of an art director or director. But if you want to kind of know the exact process I go through, as I mentioned earlier, you can always watch my Gnomon video here, and I've got a entire part of this video, and let me use my mouse on here, researching and base specifications. This video right here, the first video, is me going through the process of my the kind of the process I go through for gathering reference, and it's pretty comprehensive. I mean, depending on the project and depending on what it is I'm working on, sometimes I get stuff from the internet, but I also have a lot of books. I've got a nice library. And I sometimes go to the library at my schools that I teach at, So I know Art Center has an amazing library. Gnomon has a good library. I don't teach there, but I know they have a good library. And the public library also, has a good library as well. I have to say I've never been to the Otis art library. I've never gone to their library. I should at some point, but yeah. Reference is key. So this part here is kind of giving me a little bit of trouble getting it to be what I want. So I'm probably going to replace it with something on top of it. So I'm just going to assume that I'm going to have some sort of a thing that's going to be over here on top as a separate model that's going to augment what's there. All right. Oh, the link? Sure. It's the Gnomon Workshop, so GNOMON Workshop. And then in the Gnomon Workshop, if you want to find me, you can just, if you click on this Browse button over here, it brings out by category, by instructor, etc. So you can see here by category, if you look at software, for example, and you can just filter it by ZBrush or any other software on here. They even have stuff on Blender. Or you can go by instructor and you can find me there. So I'm between I and L, there I am. And if you go to my page, it's this one right here, Designing a Piloted Combat Mech. So it's the gnomonworkshop.com. And I think you can get a subscription and watch the videos there. They might even have a trial. Sometimes they do. All their videos are amazing. I think they have the best people. There's so many video training stuff places now. It's ridiculous. It really is. Like there needs to be somebody who goes and reviews those. There is lynda.com. There's Udemy. There's Learn Squared. There's quite a few, but in my opinion, Gnomon has really good. I think the Gnomon videos are really kind of very well done. And I should say that they're really good for specific types of needs. But if you want to learn a software feature by feature, I find Lynda's good for that. And I know a lot of my students prefer Lynda to anything else. Some people go to YouTube, which is good, but it's also, there's a lot of crazy stuff on there. It's great when the software vendor has some sort of support for their stuff. Like I know Pixologic does, which is always great. Right, moving back to this section over here, which I'm trying to avoid. I like this area over here very much. So I'm going to develop that some more. And I kind of like what's going on here with this pattern. Like maybe this is kind of a ventilation type of a thing where it vents out. All right. Astronaut suits are always interesting thing to work on. And there have been quite a few of them over the years in different movies. I mean, just the astronaut suits, the real ones, are pretty interesting. I don't know, the latest ones, the SpaceX ones, there was a lot of controversy. I don't think the other two companies, I don't think Blue Origin or Richard Branson's thing, I don't think they even focused on the astronaut suits. I think they just basically thought, you know, just wear jumpsuits. That'll do. But I know for a fact that the Tesla, or the, not Tesla, but the SpaceX suits were designed specifically. I don't know. It's controversial. Some people love him. Some people hate him. All right. No questions, and continue to work. Okay, I'm kind of working in this area, but I forgot that this whole area is covered, so I don't really need to do that. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I'm just going to clear my undo history. I don't really need it. Edit. Delete older. Okay. Now we're kind of done with that. All right. So let me see what else is going on here. Again, I'm jumping away from it, but I need to stay in this one area just until it gets to a point where I'm happy with what's going on. There's that. Just curious, of the people watching, how many people have seen my streams before, and how many people are new to my streams? Like, who's seeing me for the first time ever? What do I think about NFT? I think it's an interesting development. I think it's the start of something new, of ownership, or at least some sort of recognition to a specific thing. Like I know that the artists still own the rights to their art, NFT art, but there's also kind of a bragging rights, or some sense of I don't know what the right word is. I want to say patronage, but there's also some kind of aspect to somebody owning something that basically shows their dedication to that specific artist or that specific piece of work. But then there's the whole other angle of it, where it is a market, right? So people buy and sell things, and they make money doing that. So that's a whole other kind of business model that's interesting to me. It reminds me a little bit of the fine art market. But I think it's here to stay. I think the Facebook jumping into the metaverse concept, I think that's going to help. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of a commentary, I guess, on NFTs and what I think about them. There is the ecological aspect as well that's kind of been an issue, excuse me, where mining is causing, is using a lot of computing power. But it's interesting to compare that to the computing power that's being used on other things that maybe are not as valuable. So like if you look at how much computing power our existing banking system uses, right? Could that be streamlined? Could that work in a better way? I don't know. But honestly, I think NFTs are here to stay. I don't think they're going anywhere. Until, you know, there's some major thing that happens that could completely get rid of them. Okay, so Dan's the first time. Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, a lot of first timers. That's great. So yeah, hopefully some of you will come back. Will I try something? Well, that's a pretty open-ended question. All right, so it's always good to again jump around. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn Polypaint back on and maybe see if I can augment some of the stuff that I'm doing with paint. Because it looks like some areas are painted a certain color and some paint other color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to denote areas that are kind of this harder material. I'm going to denote those with a darker color. Oops. So I should choose a paintbrush. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and switch down to a basic material so that the paint shows off better. And also maybe turn off occlusion just so I get more of the paint areas. And here I'm just basically, because they're kind of a blend of the different colors, again, that are left over from the alphas. I'm trying to get these to be more specific. Okay, there's that. I think this area over here I'm gonna, oops. No, still the dark color. Why is it, come on. Pick this color right here. Here we go. All right, so here I'm just basically coloring the parts that are more of that softer material with this color. And maybe these triangles could be this color. It'll create a nice little look variation. Maybe do the ones on the back here too. So, and let's switch back to this color right here. And again, I'm not being too precious with any of this. And I think I obliterated quite a bit of the older paint, but or the alpha's paint, but that's fine. The spirit of what it was is still there, I guess, in somewhere or another. Again, this is going to be covered up, so I'm just going to paint over it with this color. And here I'm just trying to get a color consistency. How are we doing on time? Oh, great. All right, so you've seen me here jumping around and doing different things, and usually when I work, it is like that too. I mean, maybe I focus more on what is coming up in the deadline, but most of the time when I'm working on something, I don't usually stick to one thing for too long of a time, just because I want to keep the flow going, and that makes things a lot faster overall than just staying on one thing for a long period of time. Right, there's this in the back. So now here, I kind of like these being darker, maybe just until here, and then I'll put a buckle or something over in that one area. And then on the arm, I'd like these to be a little bit more of a, maybe the harder material. And always, it's always good to kind of think, okay, well, this is looking good in blue, but what would it look like maybe in a different color? So I'm just going to jump here into the adjust colors, and let's shift the hue around. Like, what does this look like in red? That's kind of a neat, interesting colorway for it. There's the blue one, there's a brown, so I can very slowly kind of move this throughout here and find a look that kind of works best for me. And then maybe see if it's more saturated. Well, that's kind of an interesting one right there. And if it's less saturated. And we can even add a tint to it if we want, but I think that's good. Let's just play around with the contrast a bit. So more contrast makes it interesting, and then less contrast. So I think, maybe I don't want too much contrast between those areas, so maybe about here is good. So click OK. So yeah, it's always kind of good to do that kind of stuff as well. So here I've got this area which I could maybe put something else on, but I'm going to go off of solo. And then now I'm just going to jump to another piece. So maybe the painting part, I'll do a little bit more later. I'm going to jump on to this part here, which is pretty soft looking. And let's pick a lighter color. And what I want to do is I want to pick this color right here and fill the object. Oops, let's turn occlusion back on. That is what I wanted. And go over and work on this neck piece. So I've got the helmet back up. And as you can see here, this is kind of a very simple shape that I made using ZModeler. So it was a cylinder. I just kind of added some parts that are poking out of it. And what I want to do here is I just want to sculpt some details on it. Maybe add one more subdivision level here. And all right, what's going on with this guy? Is it on dynamic? It sure is. Okay, maybe add a few more subdivision levels. Here we go. All right, so I'm just basically defining kind of the hard surface edges. Maybe one more subdivision level here. What am I making at the moment? I'm working on this piece right here, which is this neck of this astronaut. So hopefully that answers that question. And yeah. Let's stick with that, make it bigger brush size. Okay. All right, I've never played that Marvel game that you mentioned. By the way, I should let you know that it's kind of nice when you recognize that something looks like something else. But just talking to my fellow artists, a lot of people hate it when you do that. I personally don't care. All right. All right, so this is coming along nicely. Let's put some holes in there. Trim hole is really good for doing things like this. Maybe it's a bit too much. I think that's better. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of get it to do its thing over here and punch a hole in it. And maybe that's where some hoses will go in. Although you think that if you have this sophisticated of a astronaut suit that you would not have hoses. All right, let's do that, and then right, so this is kind of looking like something that's more defined. It's too much H polish, a little bit of it. All right, like so. I'm going to turn back to my reflected plastic. All right, that's looking good. All right, there's that, and then here, bring this out a bit more. Right. All right. Okay, subdivision levels or start from blocking with Dynamesh. Let's do Dynamesh so far, but I'm trying to see that. Yeah, so, you know, how to start, that's an interesting one. It depends. I mean, you know, sometimes I start with Dynamesh models as well. That's kind of an interesting, you know, it's a good way to start and get the shapes defined. And then you can always retopologize and have subdivision levels. So, but I like and I teach in my classes. I teach multi-level sculpting, and I think that that's kind of a very important thing to know and learn. And what I mean by multi-level sculpting is basically having lower subdivision levels, right? So like if you look at any of these objects, like if you look at this one right here, right? This looks pretty, I mean, it looks like it's got some kind of details or whatever, but if I bring this all the way down to its initial form, this is what it looks like. So I've basically started with something really, really simple like this. And then as I add subdivision levels, I can go up to here. And the benefit of that is at any point in time, I can go to lower subdivision levels and make more kind of structural changes to it. And that kind of makes it a lot easier for me to navigate too. So sometimes when I'm moving around, you can see it kind of goes down a few subdivision levels. So it seems a little bit snappier to me when I'm working too. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of multi-layer or multi-level sculpting. All right. Yeah, that's an interesting question about like when to stop. Usually, and this is probably not a good answer, but usually I stop when I'm bored with something. Like if I've worked on something enough and I feel like I can't really take it anywhere else, I usually stop working on it, and that's when it's done, when I'm working on my own stuff. And as far as projects for work are concerned, I usually end things a little before the due time. I always aim for that. So if things take a little bit longer, then I meet the deadlines. But you know, if I have a set amount of time, I'd like to kind of, before I start, just give myself an idea of how long everything is going to take. I mean, having done this enough, I know how long things take, so I can kind of budget for it. And that's always good too when you're negotiating with the people that want you to do the work. And if they have expectations that are unrealistic, you can let them know, like, hey, you know, this is how long this process takes, and this is how long this process takes. Where do you want to make your cuts? What would you rather me not do so I can do what you need done? All right, I'm liking this a little bit of detail over here. I'm just not going to autosave. I should. But with this kind of stuff, usually when you're doing this type of work, usually ZBrush is very, very stable. Overall, it's really stable. I should say it's one of the... Like I know some people have issues with it, but usually 9 times out of 10, especially with my students, it's something they're not doing the right way. And so that's when a little bit of instruction and a little bit of understanding comes in handy. All right, let's So I've spent a lot of time here. Time to move on to somewhere else. Let's do some kind of buckles and things. So I'm actually going to let it quick save and take a swig of tea, see if there's any new questions. Looks like not. I do tend to take things to a certain level of perfection, though. I should mention that. Okay, so that autosave took very little time because I don't have the undo history on. Or I don't have a lot of undos. I do have the save undo history. I think it's on somewhere. No, it's on. Well, it doesn't matter at this point. All right, want to become famous. I don't want to become famous by buying followers and viewers. That's exactly not the way I want to be famous. Gosh. Like, yeah, I'm famous because I bought a bunch of followers. I'm that smart. What is that even? I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, like, I don't have a lot of people that like my stuff on Instagram, and I don't really care that people post likes, but it's kind of a way for me to just kind of post up some finished work. But yeah, people that are like junkies, that's not, you know, I know a lot of really crappy artists that have a lot of likes, and it's almost sad. And I don't mean it's sad in general, but I think, you know, the artists might get a false sense of accomplishment from that. And it's not about that. It's not about getting likes. It's about doing good work. And if you do good work, the likes will just automatically happen. That's my opinion. What if I retopaz in Maya or Blender? Yeah, you can do that. I do that sometimes. Although I'm doing a lot of it here in ZBrush lately. All right, I was going to do buckles and then I got sidetracked. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is go in here and go into Spotlight. And here are some of the spotlights that I've donated to Pixologic. And there are these four. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the ones that start with AK. And here I'm going to go with this one right here. And let's make this smaller. So, oops, let's make all of them smaller. So we can see them. And these are really kind of cool because you can just choose. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and append, or let's just insert one of these guys. Let's move it down to here. Okay, so this star has a depth to it, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some of these things. Like, let's pick one of these guys right here. So I'm just going to pick this guy and bring it over. Let's make it bigger. And what I want to do is I just want to press this Make 3D button right here. Snapshot 3D, I guess it's called. And now what I have is this, right, object, which is the same depth as the star. I don't need to see the star anymore. Let's go to this object. And what's nice about it is, like, it gives you the depth, like so, but you can make it smaller. So here's a quick buckle that I just made. And maybe if I don't want this to be so harsh around the edges, what I can do is let's go ahead and add a bevel to it. So let's go to this ZModeler brush. Actually, I'm just going to do it by polygroups. Let's see if that works. So I'm just going to go over here to, I think it does add a crease. I'm pretty positive that it does, so I could probably use the crease beveling with it. So let's go to, where are you? Crease. And let's see, yep. It's making it a bit crunchy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and see, what does dynamic subdiv do? Not much. All right, so to get softer edges around here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and zero mesh this at a lower resolution. Let's see what that gives me. Nope, that's not working for me. All right, so what I'm going to do also is move this to the home kind of area, to the middle, and I'm going to solo it because that's all I'm going to work on is just work on this kind of buckle here. So let's see if I dynamesh this at a lower, like I wonder what I'll get with that. That's cool. If I go lower than that, what if I go 64 and dynamesh it? I like the fact that it's keeping the polygroups. So dynameshing at 64, this is what it gives me, and that's fine. And then what I could do is now, I like this, but I want a little bit better topology, so I'm going to zero mesh this at the same amount, and I'm going to keep the groups. Zero mesh it. There, that's exactly what I want. Looks more like a bottle opener though. Maybe I will will not do these smooth groups here and see if I get something better. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect actually. All right, so just from that one item here, let me turn symmetry on. Just from that one spotlight item, I'm getting this buckle here. And I've got a low resolution version of it. Here I think I'm going to mirror it so it looks the same on both sides. So I'm going to mirror it in Z. So mirror and weld in Z. Yeah, that's perfect right there. All right, and now what I could do is I could add, I don't know, I think it looks pretty good. You know, the bevel aspect of it looks pretty good. So that's kind of what it looks like. And another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to mirror and weld it in the X as well. So I've got X symmetry, and then just for good measure, I'm going to re-zero mesh it one more time. And get this, which is kind of interesting. I guess there's a couple of polygroups here that are misbehaving, so let's fix them. Let's go ahead and go to polygroup and absorb that one. Do that. Okay, so now it's better, and like let's remesh it, keeping the same. Right, looks like what I need to do here is absorb this polygroup, and let's polygroup to polyloop. Like that, do it over here. All right, so now that basically just gives me that white polygroup on the inside, and I think this is its own polygroup, right? Let's make sure. I need to turn off. Part of the problem is that this piece is really small. Here we go. And just for good measure, do the same polygrouping on the outside and the inside parts. All right, and I think that's pretty much good as far as the buckle is concerned. And what I want to do is add another part to this. So I'm just going to go back into Spotlight and back into here, and let's see if there's anything else that I need to I could use kind of as a back part, and maybe not in this one, but let's choose a different one. How about this one right here? Yep, I see something already. That'll work. Maybe we can use one of these guys right here. Or maybe one of these guys. How about this? This one, and what I'm going to do here is kind of expand it out like that. And maybe a little bit like that as well. To move this to the center and elongate it this way and out this way a little bit. That looks good. Maybe a little bit more. All right, that looks good. Let's snapshot it. So it's going to be the same width as what we had before. Okay, and let's hide all this. And there's the piece. What we're going to do here is let's move it to the center of the world, and rotate it, or actually just resize it this way, this way. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide the astronaut. And the suit. Right, and her. And it's kind of an interesting look, but I think it's good enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just work on the buckle as a kind of a component thing. Maybe something like that. And again, I'm just going to go into geometry and tweak this a little bit. So the Dynamesh method worked pretty well. I'm going to do that again. Maybe not. All right, let's just ZBrush and see what we get. ZBrush at half, no smoothing. ZBrush that. Okay, let's tweak symmetry and do it. Okay, that's perfect. And soften these edges a bit. And then what I want to do is kind of maybe give it some sort of a girth like this. Right, and edge polish that down. Again, these are pretty low poly, so I'm getting something like this. Soften those edges. All right, so this is going to be some sort of a buckle that we're going to use, and I'll make these edges a bit rounder, so I'm going to use one of these new brushes in ZBrush called this one right here. Looks a bit more like what I need. And there we go. All right, switch back to this, the move brush. And you can see here I've got decent topology, so I can do a few tweaks and not really mess it up. Divide it once, that looks good. And let's put some something like that. I think we can go one more subdivision level on this guy. All right, that looks good. I don't know if that worked. Maybe the other way around. Nope, I think some things are better left alone. All right, so here we go. So we got this kind of as its own thing. And what I'm going to do is combine these two together. So pick the top one and merge it down. And for now, it's going to be just this one buckle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this buckle and make an insert mesh brush with it. So create insert mesh. Okay, and we're going to make a new brush, and that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be this thing. And now what I'm going to do, now remember I had two of these suits. I'm going to go to this one. This one doesn't have subdivision levels. I can hide this one. I don't need it anymore. We'll start bringing everybody back. I think I've got all the components that I need. Yep. All right, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start adding this in certain places. See, like now here. This might be an interesting place to add it. Right, so what I got to do here is I'm going to do it over. So I'm wondering if it's better if it's coming this way, maybe over here. So what I'm adding this to, so I've got two suits going on here. I've got this one, which just has one subdivision level, and then I've got the one I was working on, which is this one. So what I'm doing is actually I'm adding these to the one that does not have subdivision levels. And I'm just figuring out, I think this kind of looks okay over here. But just from a mechanical aspect, I think it's a bit too big. Let's find where that goes. So maybe over here, like so. All right. And I'm going to make my color a little bit darker here. Does this thing have any paint on it? No, I guess it doesn't matter. All right, so there's that. So there's one of those buckles, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy them. And move it down. And putting another one here. And I'm going to add some straps to this later, but for now, I think this works. And the functionality would be that, you know, these have some buttons on them of sorts. And then when you press the buttons, that, you know, this part of the suit opens up. So the person can go to the bathroom. All right. All right. Yeah, hard surface could look murky, but you can make it look pretty. I mean, you know, if you're doing the right things, you can make it look pretty good. All right, so that's that, and let's just fill these with a color. That's good. So now when we hide this and go to this suit, this is what it's going to look like. Where is that piece we just added? Oh, good thing to remember is when you add these, now these are all going to be part of this tool. So what you need to do is go ahead and separate them out. So here, Shift A, invert that, there they are. Split hidden. So now they're their own thing. Hide that and bring this up. So this is what they're going to look like on the final suit. And I mentioned that I was going to put something else here, so I can do that as well. So now I need to decide whether I want this to be you know, what kind of strap I want to have to come here. So this looks like this would be natural progression from this triangle here to have some sort of strap that comes and connects to this, and then maybe this top part can connect to this one somehow. So I'll have to figure those out. And a quick way of doing it is just to do this, just to try it out. Turn those things back on so I can see them. Where did you go? There you are. Okay. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're getting close to the end here. I'm just going to go to the brushes here, and there is one that's called Curve Flat Snap, this one. and it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and pop. Oh, what am I on? I'm going to be on this guy. All right, here we go. No, it's still really big. Where is, oh, I need to be on this guy right here. All right, so that's more like it. Make these smaller, and then try this. That was good, maybe a little bit bigger. All right, what's going on? Let me solo this out. All right, so that's good, maybe a little bit bigger. All right, that's a bit too big. So maybe around here. All right, so. All right, there's one, there's two. Oh, let's accept that one. And here's two. And let's accept that one too. All right, and let me solo that out. So again, you see that there are the two straps, and then I'm just going to select this, Control Shift A, and invert that. Here are the two straps that I have, and split hidden on those guys. So now they're their own thing. And bring everybody back. And here are the two straps. So now I can fine tune them. To move brush, am I on the straps? I am. Right? I can just fine tune them and move them to where they need to be. So let's say a strap is coming from here, like so. And I'm not really being very precious about the size. Again, this is very low res, which is awesome. So I can manipulate it exactly the way I want. So let's say this is some sort of strap that's over here. And then there is this one. Maybe I should mask this one again. Oops. Did I unmask it? Come on. I guess it was masked. Okay, so we're good. So here I'm kind of exploring whether I want this Another thing to do is you can always click Topological, and that will kind of limit your manipulation to where the brush tip is. Right. Right, so I'm just kind of working on these external parts. I haven't given them any thickness yet. I'm just moving them into place. And here, if I turn polyframe on, you'll see this is really low. Low poly count topology. All right, I think that looks okay. Let's fix the front. Almost looks like film. Yeah, I'm deciding how thick this is. Here we go. All right. All right, so it's coming up to the end here, but I'm going to go a little bit longer today just because I'm having fun doing this. So you guys can stay on or get off. Remember, you can always watch this afterwards again. Like if you miss something, you can watch it over. It'll be on the YouTube channel right after the stream is done. so you can watch it at your own leisure. All right. All right, so those are there. It still looks like it's a little bit. Here we go. Let's move them closer. All right, so that's some extra detail that kind of. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to add something. Just this part of this strap's going to show. Probably the back is not. I might as well just get rid of it now. Delete a single poly, get rid of this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Did I inadvertently add an edge loop? I did. Yeah, this makes it easier. Oops. Right, so that's basically going to be the two straps. And I don't know if I want this to come from all the way back here either. So get rid of those. All right, so I've got a question for you guys before we sign off. And that is, what would you rather I do? Would you rather me just kind of freeze this where it is and pick it up where I left off next time? Or would you rather I do some work on it off camera? Which would you prefer? Let's get some opinions. For all those of you that are still watching, if you could let me know, that would be great. Would you rather I do some things off camera and then have something a little bit more refined next time? Or would you rather I keep it exactly where it is, where I left it off, and pick up from there? I hope I'm being clear in what I'm asking. Freeze. Okay, sure. It's one ask for freeze. So I will leave it exactly where we leave it off today. Okay, here's another one too. All right, yeah. Aquarius, it will definitely be taken to completion for sure. I think I'm really liking it so far, so I definitely will have a render of it. We might do some good poses of it too, which will be cool. All right, so that's kind of looking interesting like there. And what I want to do here is I want to merge all these together. And I want to try something here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see what they look like by themselves. Like if I just had that one, or if I just had that one. I think I like the... and this is another kind of cool thing you can do with ZBrush is, you know, if you're doing concept design, you go like, okay, did that look good or did that look good? I think this one's kind of neat because it doesn't interfere with her hips. This one kind of interferes with his. Well, I can fix it a little bit. Let's see. Not her hips, but her waist. Sorry. But yeah, I definitely do want this kind of curve over here to happen. So if I push this in a bit more, I think it works. And also, well, I guess if I add dynamic thickness, it's going to add to everything. But I'll just kind of keep it at that. So now again, let's look at both. I definitely like this one. All right, I guess I will just keep this one. So delete hidden. And I'm just going to keep this one and keep this the way it is because I kind of like the way it looks. Okay. All right, so I will freeze this exactly where it is, right here. And we will continue working on it. Next time, I wanted to do some work on the helmet today. I didn't get to. Well, let's see. I guess I'll go for another 10 minutes. Let's do a little bit of work on the helmet. Now that I said it, it looks like fun. So. Right, so now I'm just basically trying to do some cool effects on the helmet here. Which helmet am I working on? There's two. Okay, I'm working on the right one. Is the other one any better? Oh no, I want to definitely work on this helmet. What am I doing with the other one? I'm going to move the other one out of the way here into this folder. All right. All right, so I've done a little bit of work on this one. I'm just going to do a little bit more. Fill this part out. Oh, that's what I'm like, why is this not working right? Because I'm using the wrong brush. Here we go. Here we go. I think I like the ears protruding more, so. This makes it a little bit more interesting. All right. Maybe some people will start checking out. Let's do that there. Right, and then we're probably going to have some pieces coming out of this thing, so let's make room for them. Now this is all very hard surface, so I want to get rid of all the kind of the mushy looking parts as much as I can. All right, that's looking better. I like some of the details that are going on back here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the contrast brush to bring them up. Where are you? There you are. Accentuate some of these details. I must say this is one of my favorite brushes that is a recent addition. I mean, it's kind of cool that they have it as a slider in deformation, but the mere fact that there's a brush that does it too is stupendous. Right, that kind of gave me that nice little lip over here. Just need to kind of make these a little bit more refined, but I think it definitely did add a little bit more visual interest. Now, one of the things I don't use as much, but I was reminded of it the other day, is this pinch brush, which, where are you? Here it is. Which topologically isn't a very, very good brush to use, but it's really great for like doing this with hard surface. All right, so I'm just kind of wondering, I'd like, I'll do something really harsh here. And get rid of this detail in the front, but bring these lines over this way. Yeah, because I kind of like this, you know, and I might even get rid of these little areas over here and just keep this as just one kind of swooping front part. Yeah, I like this a little bit more, and then I also want to give this a little bit more of it. So this is one of the things that I really like about ZBrush, is the ability to do this. This is not something that's easily done with CAD programs and just traditional polymodeling is just this kind of what if. And I'm going to bounce this down in subdivision level a little bit, maybe not that much. And just getting it to work. All right, so we've got some code stuff happening in the chat. So there's a little maybe buckle over here. And then I don't know if I like these two holes in here, so I'm just going to flatten them out. I think that looks better already. As you can see, this material is really a good one to use when you're working on kind of hard surface things. good tutorials to learn ZBrush. I think the best ones are the ones they have in something called Z Classrooms, and they're free. So if you go to the ZBrush or Pixologic's website, or just search for Z Classroom, and they have a really good one, some really good tutorials to get you started, really amazing ones. That's what I have my students watch when I teach them ZBrush. So I have a ZBrush, or I had a ZBrush class at Otis, and students would come into that class not knowing ZBrush, and in 15 weeks they would have a final project of a character done, rendered, and in pretty good shape. So what I used to have them do when they first started was give them assignments to go watch stuff on Z Classroom. So that's what I would recommend. And there's a lot of other ones too. I don't want to, I mean, if you want to pay for some, there's some ones that are for pay that are really, really good. One that I really like is Maddie Spencer's tutorial, or ZBrush class, on the Gnomon Workshop website. But other than that, I'm sure there are other ones that I don't know about that are good too. One of the things I'm looking into is doing some sort of a workshop, doing classes as well online. I think I think that there are quite a few out there that are really good, but if people like the way I work, I might do a workshop on that at some point. Not in the near future. I just got on a couple of projects, so I'm going to be busy with those. But maybe next time I get a little bit of a lull, I will look into doing that. I love working on helmets. Like one of the most fun things to do. All right, so now something needs to happen over here. So I'm just going to put the framework for it. Maybe I'll pop in a external part. Right. I think I like where it's at for now. So how are we doing on time? All right, I think I went a little bit over what I said I was going to, but that's fine. I was having a good time with this helmet, and so I will freeze this here. And I will start back on it not next Friday, but the Friday after. So once again, if you guys enjoyed this, you know the routine, like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. And I will see you in 2 weeks. So happy ZBrushing and good night.